Hello everyone, welcome to this month's Junior Club Legend Takeover. I'm Ryan Thatch.
I'm Vivaan Lavani.
And I'm Charles Felicia. Thank you to Metrotex for sponsoring this for us.
Now joining us live is Sunderland legend Michael Gray.
Hi,
Hello, Michael.
Hi
Oh, there we
guys,
go, we
how
can
you
see you.
doing? I feel like I'm going to be in trouble this afternoon.
Hey.
You might.
Okay.
Alright, so for my first question, I really wanted to ask you this. So, you're famously known, because of the penalty miss against Charlton. And similarly to me, I've missed many very decisive penalties and I'm yet to, overcome these situations. So I'd like to know, what do you do to overcome this situation? How do you go back to your normal phase, playing football? Like, what exactly do you do to overcome this?
Oh well, what I did when I missed the penalty, I think, was hide. I basically got home from Wembley Stadium that evening and got back to my house. And after I got in the house, I think I just basically closed the door behind me. And for maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks, I didn't really speak to anybody. I was that disappointed because that penalty, and I think a lot of people know, it was to get us into the Premier League. It was worth a lot of money to the football club. And I felt all of the pressure because I was the one that missed that all-important penalty. So we had to play another season in the Championship before we actually tried to get promoted into the Premier League. So it was a horrible feeling. But what I said to myself, because it was the end of the season, I wanted to just work really, really hard. I couldn't wait to get back to pre-season training. And then I couldn't wait for the next season to get going because the hiding place for me was at home, but I wanted to get out on the football field and prove everybody that I was strong in the mind and I wanted to succeed and I wanted to get to the Premier League, which we achieved the season after.
Yeah.
Okay, so Michael, I also have a question for you. So which club out of your many you played for would you say you shone at the most? And how would you say that club you shone at the most has evolved through the years?
All right, okay. Well, there's two. I think everybody, when they probably, I don't know, Google my name, I think Sunderland would come alongside my name because I spent 12 and a half years there. And it was my hometown club. It was where I was born. So I was very fortunate to play for Sunderland and we had some really successful times, especially when we got into the Premier League. The first 2 seasons we got in the Premier League, we finished 7th. We had some really good games. We had some fantastic games against Chelsea and Manchester United and certainly Newcastle, who were our biggest rivals. So I think people will probably say Sunderland, but the best time that I had and the most success was probably when I was at Blackburn Rovers and we had a fantastic team with people like Benny McCarthy, Craig Bellamy, those type of guys, and two guys playing in that start 11 who were absolutely outstanding players. We just had a wonderful team, and again we had some brilliant performances against some of the big sides, if you like your Manchester Uniteds, Chelseas and your Tottenhams and people like that. So yeah, I would say Blackburn and Sunderland were very special.
All right, so my first question is, how do you describe living in Scotland and how is it different to living in England?
It's a lot colder. Very, very cold. I went to Celtic when it was around about the Christmas period. I was there for around about 3 or 4 months. And some of the big reasons I went up to Scotland was to see the atmosphere at Celtic Park, to play in the Old Firm derby, which is Celtic against Rangers, for people who don't know that. And obviously to try and play in Champions League football, which I got the chance to do on 3 occasions. So those were very special times, but the difference was probably the weather. The league itself at the time wasn't very strong. It was only really Celtic and Rangers who were the top side. So that was difficult to motivate yourself every single week. But a huge football club. The fan base at that club is incredible. And it was a brilliant, brilliant time. Although it was only short, I really enjoyed my time up in Scotland.
So, in your career, what is your favorite moment and why is it so special?
I think a lot of players will probably say this, ex-football players and even players who are playing now, is making your debut.
Yeah.
Because you work so hard as a 12-year-old, 13, even younger than that, And when you get the opportunity to sign for a football club, one of your dreams is to walk onto a football field full of a crowd, a full atmosphere. And I got that opportunity in 2 away games, actually. When I was at Sunderland, I just turned 18 and I travelled away and we played against Derby County. And I came on as a half-time substitute, and that's something that I'll never ever forget. That's the best moment for me. There's a lot of good moments, but I think making your debut is very special.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question. So, in your words, describe how you did that comeback goal in the Premier League with Sunderland, and what was your emotion in the locker room with your teammates?
So when we got promoted, that season was a fantastic season. I think after I'd missed the penalty, we came back and we had a record at the time, which is now being broken by Reading. I think it was either 105 or 106 points in the championship. So that was a brilliant feeling, because every single week we had a really good dressing room. Everybody in the dressing room got on with each other. We did pretty much most things on and off the football field. But when we got into the Premier League, it was quite new to a few of our players. We had a young squad of players, a few experienced guys. So everything was new when we got to the Premier League, and everybody in the dressing room just wanted to enjoy every single week. We knew we weren't going to win every football match, but we had this work-like enthusiasm in the dressing room that every single week the players went out just to enjoy their football, and the camaraderie really took us through to the end of the season, where we finished 7th, I think, in our first season. And it was just a brilliant feeling every single week to play against the big stars in the Premier League, because everybody dreams of playing in the Premier League, and we've been given our opportunity.
So, what do you remember from your first ever wage packet, and what did you make of it?
Okay, so when I was 17 years old, in the UK, so it was called an apprenticeship. So you did 2 years. Well, I was still on my apprenticeship wage, and I used to get £36 a week. And then my first wage that I got, the big wage, was when I travelled to those games I mentioned before, Derby County, when I made my debut. And then the week after, we played against Southend. And in my wage packet, I got £350, and I thought they'd overpaid me, so I didn't tell anybody about it. I kept it a secret because I didn't know I was a part of the win bonus, because that's what it was. It was a win bonus. So I got this big wage packet, and I don't know what, I think I went out and bought myself something. I treated myself to something, because it was a nice feeling earning that amount of money. But as the years go by, when you sign new contracts, they get bigger and bigger, but only if you're successful and you work hard at it.
All right, so for my last question, and to all the other young footballers out there like me and these two people, and to many of those in the world, I don't know, what is one of your best advice that you'd like to give us for us to make it pro one day?
Okay, well, I would say what I learned and what I was told as a youngster was just to practice, practice, practice. And you just got to basically, every single moment you get, have a football, whether it's in the street or whether you need to practice on. If you're a right-footed player, then work harder on your left foot. Listen to what your coaches have to say to you. And you'll see, as the days go by and the weeks go by, you'll start to see the improvements. But that's one thing for me. It was always practice, practice, practice. And everything that you do, give it everything that you've got, 100%. Try your hardest, and you'll start to see the rewards.
Okay, Michael, so my last question is, growing up, did you ever have an ambition other than football? And if not, who was your idol growing up?
Very good question. I think my idol growing up was probably people like Paul Gascoigne. I used to love watching Paul Gascoigne, but because I was a Manchester United supporter when I was young, and I got the opportunity to play for Manchester United when I was 14 years old, just in the what they call the A and the B team then. Brian Robson was always my hero. He was a fantastic player, and he was probably the guy that I used to love watching whenever the football was on TV. Sorry, could you say what was the beginning of that question again?
Okay, so growing up, did you ever have an ambition other than football? And if you didn't, who was your idol as you were growing up, as you were 10, 11 years old?
Okay, so I gave you my idol. It's so special. I think growing up, in my mind, I always wanted to be a footballer from a very young age, maybe 7 or 8 years old. I always wanted to be a professional footballer. And when I got to the age of 13, we used to have football scouts who used to come and watch the games on weekends. And there was a Manchester United scout who used to come and watch me play every single week. And I got the opportunity to sign schoolboy forms for Manchester United and go there on trial. I used to go down on the school holidays for 2 weeks and maybe sometimes 6 weeks in the big school holidays. And I was a part of the era which was Ryan Giggs, who at the time was called Ryan Wilson. I don't know if you know that, but he changed his name when he got into the first team at Manchester United. David Beckham was a part of that squad. Gary Neville, Nicky Butt, all of the superstars, people like Paul Scholes. So I knew then I wanted to be a professional footballer. I thought it was going to be at Manchester United, but some of the players were just a little bit better than me, because at the time I used to play left wing and Ryan used to play in the same position as me. And even at a young age of 13 and 14, I knew how good he was. So I thought I had to go and sign for another club. So fortunately for me, I was able to go and sign for my hometown club, which was Sunderland, which was really special anyway.
So, Michael, do you have any questions for us that you'd like to ask?
Oh, okay. Right, so I take it you play football on weekends.
That's true, I play football on
Yep,
weekends.
I do that as
Yeah.
well.
Now, you asked me the question about advice I would give to young players who really want to be professional football players. When you're coaching, do you actually listen to what your coaches are saying, and do you actually give it 100% every single time you train and you play in your football matches, and do you take on board what your coaches have said to you?
Yeah, of course, definitely I listen to what my coaches say, and I try and imply what they coach me into the game and into the training practice. Whatever my coaches say is, it's very important for me, and my dad also helps me, on the outside of the field. And so it's very important for me as well. I think that I try my best to imply, but most of the time I wouldn't really be able to, let's say if someone asked me to give the true ball or make a run, or at that specific moment of time, I wouldn't be able to do it the next game, but maybe it takes me about 1 or 2 weeks before I can actually perfect it. So not that good, but it'll get eventually better,
Absolutely. No, I like that.
Okay, well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Once again, a big thank you to our sponsors at Match Attacks. And goodbye, Michael. Thank you for a good time.
Bye, Michael.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Nice speaking to you.